Hey everyone, welcome back to Isyour6covered, and today we're doing Into the Fire, the series that I've started a long time ago, and I add a video every once in a while, something new that has to do with firefighting. Basically, it's designed for the person that wants to become a firefighter, tells them a little bit about how to get hired, how to go through probation, and topics like that. But today we're talking about something a little more on the sad side: PTSD and firefighter suicide. Unfortunately, we're going to get into some numbers here and reasons why things like this do happen, and it's very unfortunate. So let me do some computer stuff here so I can get on the right screens, and then we'll get started, hopefully. All right. Wow, I don't know what happened there. Hopefully you guys are still there. I see there's quite a few of you still watching. Let's see if I can get two things going on at the same time. For some reason, it wouldn't let me. And I lost all my, I think I got Googled. I lost everything as far as links on the top, but they are all in the description. I have made some notes, and I do also have some stuff printed out that I wanted to show you guys and gals. So, that's kind of silly. I kind of screwed things up. All right. First off, PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. From the rest of this chat, it'll be PTSD, but that's what it is. You see a lot of it in different cases, police officers, military, fire, and other organizations as well, depending on what the topic is. And it's something that over time, because we're going to talk about the firefighter side of it and EMS, because they both wrap up into the same thing, is if you take, if you take the analogy of a glass of water that's empty, that's basically a glass, and every bad call you go to, you just kind of throw in a teaspoon of water. Sometime within your career, depending on how many incidents you go on, how much stuff or wherever your location is that you may work, that cup may fill up a lot faster than, say, if you're somewhere where you run less calls. And PTSD is something that for the most part, depending on how you were raised or grew up or what your thoughts are and who you are as a person, may fill up faster than someone else. You may go to the same call as someone else, and they may take it in a completely different manner than you or one of your coworkers will. And that's the hard part, is figuring out if and when you are basically, did that impact you or did that impact them? And if you're not familiar with my channel, it's a lot of gun reviews and shooting and stuff, because that's what I like to do. I've been in the fire service 29 years, and I've got skeletons that haunt me. I have little demons that'll wake you up at night. Over the course of the years, most of those were years and years past when I was a firefighter for another agency that ran a lot more calls, a lot more different types of calls, where now where I'm at, and I'm in a position now where I'm not running all those calls that the guys are seeing, unless they're really bad and they're requesting some type of supervisor to show up. But that's the thing, is I'm going to give you a few stories of some friends that I know. I'm going to give you a few stories of some stuff that I may or may not have talked about in the past. But it all ends up filling up that cup. And the cup is, you have to figure out a way to put little tiny holes in it to keep that down. To keep it, you're never gonna forget. You're never gonna forget the sight you saw. You can't erase it from your head. You can't erase the smell that you may have smelt. So there's a lot of things. But let me get back here so I can see your guys' comments in case you have questions. Hopefully I can do this without screwing it up. So let's give it a shot. Let's see if I can read your comments. All right, so yeah, so basically this thing is basically designed just for my Into the Fire series, so it's going to be all related to fire stuff, and then maybe on a different chat we can all have fun. Most of you guys out there are my gun friends, and hey Robin, thanks for showing up as well. But today I want to do something serious. The reason why I want to do something serious is because yesterday I stood on an overpass saluting a casket that a fellow brother for a different organization, one that I used to work for, committed suicide. And I don't really want to get into the details or talk about him as a whole. This video is more to maybe help someone, you know, understand that everybody's going through it. Everybody, you know, in the fire service and police and so on, EMS. And they have to figure out ways in order to keep the glass from filling all the way up. So with that said, let me give you guys some statistics. And it may boggle your mind. You know, we lose a lot of firefighters each year. Once one too many, but we lose a lot of firefighters each year in line of duty deaths. And you can call it heroic, you can call it whatever you want. At the end of the day, sometimes we're doing stuff that maybe we shouldn't be going into. Maybe the, you know, the risk versus gain kind of thing, gain versus risk, or however you want to say it. At the end of the day, we may be doing something that we probably shouldn't be doing, and that is causing firefighters to lose their lives. You know, as a supervisor and as the supervisors of those incidents, that's got to be horrible to be the incident commander. You know, a fellow firefighter has lost their lives, and it's something that they're going to be haunted with. That's something that's going to fill their glass up very fast. Because there is a difference between seeing death, trying to help somebody that, you know, that's close to dying, so on and so forth, and then you now have the factor of your fellow brothers, your fellow family, your sisters. But we'll get into the numbers. So suicides by year, and this is from Firefighter Behavioral Health Alliance. And you can go down to the link below, and it'll be in the description. But from the data that they had, and they're saying that it represents about 40%, because in years past they didn't really have a way to figure out firefighter suicides. But I can tell you this much: after I tell you the numbers and I'll show you the picture, you're gonna see that somehow, some way, things are getting worse and worse from 1880, so 1880, so the year 1880 to 1999, so that was 119 years. There was 113 suicides, and this is just a 40% average of actual, so this is the data that they have. And then as the years get better, they're obviously going to have better data. 113 for 119 years in that window. And then from 2000 to 2005, so 5 years, there was 76. Now we'll utilize the newest information that's out there. So from 2006 is 25. So if you take that to last year, 2016, it was 132. 132. So from 2006, and I'll just say the numbers of people. So when I say the next number, it'll be the next year. So 2006, 25, 28, 41, 35, 45, 52, 85, 72. So it dropped a little bit there. And then it skyrocketed up to 116. Then in 2015, it went to 135. And then down 3 to 132. So why? You can't put your thumb on a firefighter suicide. You can't just because he went to a call and he gets home and decides, or doesn't even get home, he decides, you know, that something happened and he wants to end his life. It may not have been the call that he just went on. It may not have had anything to do with that call. But like we talked about, that glass has just filled up. The glass is full. And as firefighters and as family oriented as we are, we have the ability to look at our fellow brothers and sisters, hopefully, and figure out if there's something not right with them, you know. And the things we do to try to minimize some of this is we use critical stress debriefing. And critical stress debriefing may be, all of a sudden the engine crew goes on a really horrific wreck, traffic accident, and there could be bodies everywhere or parts of bodies everywhere. And those are the times that we go, okay, and we get them all gathered together, and we try to critical stress debrief. And depending on the magnitude and of the incident and how much stuff has happened, will dictate whether we can order teams to come in and help us, or have other people from other agencies also come and help. But it'll depend on the magnitude of the call, and it'll depend on whether you're seeing anything from people. As a new firefighter, if you start right out of high school, you may have never seen a dead body before. So just going to an elderly home where the person has passed away in their sleep and everything's beautiful and perfect and it looks very peaceful. That may be the first drop of water for a firefighter that's never seen a body. And as you get through your years and years of going to stuff like this, you would, and I think Brian Marks is a firefighter out there, and he says, I agree, you spend more time with your fellow firemen than your own family, especially if it's busy season. True. Is you see, I got discombobulated. Every time you go to a call, it may not impact you. And as you get more used to it and more callous to the sights and the smells and the sounds that you see, sounds meaning like screaming or, there's a lot of different ways that can impact. You may not even see anything. You may hear the most horrific scream from a company officer telling the mother that their child has passed away. You may not even have saw her face. You may not have saw that. But that noise, that sound of her screaming may wake you up at night a year later or the night later or whatever the case is. And those are just kind of very simple things. Try not trying to get real graphic in this. You basically are understanding that the stuff that EMS, fire, police, all those guys, when they show up as first responders to the incident, you don't know what you're going to see. Sometimes people will get caught under big rig wheels and all tangled up in there, whatever the case is. And those are things, trying to help someone get a body out between two axles or whatever the case is, so on and so forth. Those are the things that are going to haunt those firefighters in EMS. So let me do a couple things here. Let me get, let's kind of dance around a little bit and change it up. So I was reading some of these articles and that are listed below, and one of them says, suicide, can it be prevented? And my answer to that was, and what they had written down was, if the risk factors are recognized, is what they had put. But the problem is, as firefighters, we are very good about hiding our emotions when it comes to when we are at work. We are supposed to be, what do they call it? I think I put it on here somewhere. Pillars, where the hell is it? Oh, pillars of society, the strong ones. And you take a normal person, we're just a normal person just like anybody else that has decided that this is a job we want to do, we want to go help people. It's fun, it's exciting. But along with that is the other stuff that we're talking about right now. And pillars do break. Pillars, you may put too much weight on this pillar, and at some time it may crack, it may snap, it may just completely disintegrate. But as firefighters, they always want to believe that they're strong. They always want to, they don't want to say anything because they don't want to either be, and it was on here, laughed at. And it's unfortunate that someone would say that, but that is the truth. The truth is that as mostly man what would be the right terminology? A service that is mostly made up of men. It's very manly, right? So you don't want to be the weak one that says anything about that call. Like, man, that call really jacked me up, and we try not to say anything, but at the end of the day, our cup just got more full because we never talked about it. And we talked about the critical stress debriefings, and you can have those, and I've been to quite a few of them, and you're like, and everybody's like, oh, I'm good, man, I'm good, I'm good. And I did the same thing. I'm good. And the only one that really knew was my wife when I would get home, because when I got home, I would be quiet. I would be reserved. My kids were small, like tiny, and I would want to go basically be in a quiet place, and I didn't want to deal with anything like that for a while. And it's I guess it's a way to cope, and a lot of the ways that firefighters cope with stuff, and hopefully you guys don't take this wrong, but this is how it is, and if you can't take it, too bad. We make fun of and joke that come up. We may say something horrible about, oh, did you see that lady's whatever? Like, her foot, it looked like, this or that, and it's, I'm just coming up with examples, but we try to figure out a way to break the stress of it, to turn it into something that our bodies can cope with easier than just sitting and dreading the thing that we saw. So it's kind of let me refresh this if you guys are still talking. It's kind of a coping mechanism is what it is. And remember, you guys, if you're not familiar with my channel, those of you, and I can see you all out there that know me, but those of you that don't know me, I'm not some PhD with some type of degree in psychology or anything like this. So the stuff that I'm saying is just from 29 years of firefighting. It doesn't have anything to do with some degree in some medical stuff. I don't have any of that. So I figured I'd throw that out there. So what do we do to them? Why do we do them? So the critical stress debriefing, it's to hopefully get someone, if there's someone out there to cope or to say something, to talk. Because you got to remember, a lot of this, and this could be one of the problems that we have, is that you're in the group with the guys that ran the call, right? We just got done doing whatever. Maybe there was a house that had caught on fire, and there was someone that passed away due to the fire. Whatever the case is. And then they'll be like, how's everybody doing? And kind of talk about what had happened, what they may have seen, saw, kind of what we did on the fire ground. And then kind of, does everybody feel okay about the call? And, I'm kind of keeping it easy, but, and for the most part, everybody's like, oh, I'm good. Or no one's really jumping out there saying, man, that was pretty jacked up, or, how do you guys do this? And as fellow firefighters, especially the new ones that could be coming in, they don't really have the coping skills or to even know how to cope with the smaller stuff. And as they work through the progress, and then it's harder for them to even ask what I should do. They're new. They don't want to portray that they're weak or whatever the case is. And weak's not really the word, but mentally scabbed up enough basically to handle the call. So it's kind of it's tough to ask your fellow friends. This is my sweet tea for the day. Are you okay? Oh man, I saw that call, and I don't know what I need to do. Something, I don't feel good. I can't sleep anymore. Whatever the case is, right? Because they want to be macho. They want to be, Superman, Superwoman. They don't want to think that, they have some type of weakness or, what is it, kryptonite or whatever the Superman can't handle. And it makes it unfortunate because like I'd said earlier, that people basically think of the firefighters and the EMS as some heroic person that, you know, nothing can hurt them kind of deal, where in fact is it's not. We are just normal everyday people like everybody else. So we have the ability to break and crack, and we have the ability to hurt and cry and all that other stuff. But it's a matter of the guys on the floor talking to the guys when there's issues. You know, in the statistics of 132 firefighters last year that committed suicide, it blows my mind away. But at the end of the day, I understand some of it, and I'll give you guys the methods of their suicides. And the suicides, the number one was firearms. 564 committed suicide by firearms, 147 by hanging, 112 by unknown/other, 50 by overdose, 31 by CO poisoning, 15 by jumped, asphyxia is 11, auto is 11, stabbing is 10, drowning 5, poison 5, train 5, slit wrist 4, suicide by cop 3. And I think the number 3 on that is because the fire and police work so much together that there's a lot less of those, because they don't want to impact their brothers in blue. But look at these numbers. Why is this happening? We're losing more firefighters to suicide than responding to incidents and fighting fires. And if you just showed up yesterday, I stood at a bridge, and there was 1, 2, 3. There was 4 units, and we all stood on the units and saluted as the casket drove underneath and on its way to the mortuary for a fellow firefighter, a fellow brother that couldn't take whatever his problems, whatever his issues were at work, at home, all his bottled up glass of calls that we talked about earlier, and decided to end it. It's sad, it's unfortunate. And those are the things that we need to do as fellow firefighters. We need to have the balls to question and be concerned about our fellow firefighters and ask them, hey, Rick, man, you know, you haven't been the same lately since we went on that fire the other day, or that car wreck. You know, are you everything all right? You know, a lot of the police, fire, EMS, we try to find happiness or to hide in a bottle of alcohol. We think that a bottle of alcohol is going to erase all the emotions and calls that we went on. It's going to help us sleep more, or be able to sleep. And at the end of the day, it's really not going to help you. The only way to really help yourself is to get help from somebody else. Hold on one way. Let's see, I got to answer this text here. Park tomorrow. All right, I'm sorry about that. So that's something we got to think about. The guys are back from the call, which is good. Lose a lot of firefighters just responding code 3 to an incident. We lose a lot of firefighters each year of heart attacks. We lose a lot of people for all different sorts of reasons that shouldn't happen. And suicide is one of them. So let me get some of this information here. So this guy right here, let me give you a little history about this guy. And this is out of tribelive.com. It'll be in the description below. But this individual right here was a firefighter that decided to jump in front of a train just down the street from his house, from his mom and dad. Let me see if I can find the... But the mom basically said, my son is a classic case of, I'm never going to tell anybody. If I tell them, they'll think I'm weak. And that goes back to the machoism of the fire service. It should, I don't know if it's just active or everybody, but it's all in the description down below. You can see it. And the data that I just showed you was from the Tribe Live one, which is this one. But there's ways to get help. You know, there's different programs at different departments. You know, they call them different acronyms, but basically like your employee assistance programs. If you have an issue or something's wrong, you have the ability to go to them and ask them for help. Some of the things that kind of can be good or bad is, I think if you can find one that is related to whatever field you're in. So instead of just going to, you know, what's the name of it? I'll call it a shrink. You know, going to a shrink that has never been on a call, never worked for the fire department or EMS or police, I don't think they can really relate to you. I'm sure they could probably help you, but most of the time, someone that a firefighter is gonna relate with is somebody that has been in their shoes per se, because it makes more sense. You can talk in firefighter language, which is a language upon itself, basically. And I think they'd feel more comfortable talking to them, and they would understand more. Because when you talk about calls that you've been on, you know, you'll have a sense of kind of a brotherly thing. You'll be able to connect with that counselor a lot faster, a lot easier. And I think in some of the words where like some departments may not have the ability to have someone that's a counselor that has been in their service, whether it's EMS, fire, police. And I think that's an important, invaluable tool. So that's something that can be done. There's many things on the internet and places where you can go, and some of them are listed below, where you can take a quiz on whether you're suicidal. You can go to places where you can call and talk to people and get help via the phone. You know, it can be anonymous. You don't have to say your name, that kind of stuff, and you may just need to talk to somebody. You may need to get something off your chest. You may need to be able to just feel like you can let the information out, but you know there's not going to be any firefighter that's in your department going, oh, what a sissy, or what a weak ass, or whatever the case is. And a lot of this stuff I'm talking about applies to the military. You know, in the military, I really can't say it's much different besides getting fired upon, because though I've never been in the military, I've been on calls where people have blown up from hand grenades and stuff like that. But I know it's different. But at the end of the day, post-traumatic stress disorder, or PTSD, is something that everybody needs help with. I think a lot more of it is you hear for the military because, you know, there was a lot of men and women that went over and kicked ass and have come back and need help, you know, and the firefighters like kind of the local hero per se, if you want to call it that, that and you know, they rescue cats and everything's good and fluffy, and you know, they got the Sparky dog and all that kind of stuff. But those guys are going home to screams of noises and smells of stuff and shit they've seen that haunt them every night, every day. I mean, years ago when I was a firefighter, and I'll kind of give you a story of my friend. His name's Jim. I'll just leave it at that. And I would relieve him from work. So his shift was before mine, and then I would come in the next day and relieve him. Well, that night, you know, like day, they had responded to a call, and well, a little back history. So, known this guy forever. We were volunteers together. You know, we got hired in the same department, and so on. He got married. He had kids, and so on and so forth. He was a little older than I was, so I didn't have a wife or kids at the time. But I've known him for a long time, and so I go in, to relieve him, and I find out that the day before, he had went on an auto accident, a traffic collision as we call it, and it was a head-on. It was kind of not a head-on like this, but a head-on kind of swipe thing. Well, there was a young girl that wasn't in a seatbelt, and she was kind of hanging her head out the window as the driver, which I think it was her dad, I don't know for sure, was going, and she was just, you know, like hanging out, looking out the window with her face, probably breathing, you know, blowing in the wind, kind of having fun deal. And somehow, I don't know whose driver, whatever happened. Well, they ended up, when they swiped, the drivers on this side, they had basically crossed lanes like this, and when they had hit, the daughter's basically face had ended up on the other window of the other car, and that kid had reminded him of his daughter. I think it had a lot to do with the age of the kid and the color of the hair. But he had, after that call, he had went home. And he never returned to firefighting ever again. He actually got rid of his cell phone and basically went underground. I haven't even seen him since probably a week after that call, and that call was at least 23 years ago. So it ruined him. He just basically walked, as soon as he got back from the station, he grabbed his shit and got in his car and never returned ever. And that's sad, you know. And when you do have kids, it's definitely ups the game of your cup being filled faster, because you may go and you may go on a child that looks like yours, or you may go on basically a SIDS call, you know, and you're like, oh my gosh, you know, you usually as a firefighter, you remember your first call. And I can tell you what my first call was, and it was a simple, it was a house just down the street where a kid, this was a long time ago, so the garage doors it was like a bike chain that would lift it up to the motor. Well, he had held onto he had held on to the garage door as his brother hit the button, but it went into the sprocket of the, of the gears, basically, and he was stuck up there hanging by his hand, and that was my first call I ever went on. Now, was it some traumatic call? No, it wasn't a big deal at the time, but like, you remember those things, and something being that silly, up until all the nastiness that you've ever come across, depending on where you've worked, you know, can be very impactful. You have the ability to see many, many things that you cannot erase from your head. And luckily for me, I only have, you know, a few that haunt me. And it's been a long time, so they still haunt me, I guess, but they don't haunt me like they used to. You know, I would be normal, and then all of a sudden I'd just go quiet. And I'd almost just kind of want to go to a quiet spot of my, whatever the case was. And those are the signs that we need to look at. Those are the things, looking back at me years ago, not so much for suicide, but just things that impact your fellow firefighters that are in your station or in your department. Those signs and symptoms are what we as firefighters and brothers and sisters need to look for with our people. If you work with a guy for the last 5 years and all of a sudden he's completely different, doing stupid shit or completely different stuff, or being very very careless with his life as far as going into fire too far, doing very crazy stuff that he normally wouldn't do, you know, he's going you know, like bungee jump, not to say that these things are crazy, but, you know, bungee jumping or jumping from planes with parachutes, hang gliding stuff, or whatever the case is, where you can almost tell that they're very carefree and don't really care if they die, kind of deal, or they're going into the fire too far. They're not staying together in a group, you know, like a 2-in as a team to go fight suppress fire. They're being more of a John Wayne and doing shit they probably shouldn't be doing. Those are the signs that you're going to need to look for. Those are the signs that are going to tell you that this guy may have a problem. You know, if this guy's calling you every other day and saying, "Hey man, I'm at the bar, you know, come hang out with me," or whatever, and he's never called you before, or whatever the case is, or you notice he's showing up to work a little hungover, a lot hungover, and it's not normal, which hopefully it's not. Those are signs. Those are signs to think about. What else is there? There's a place called undertheshield.com, and you can remain anonymous as well. And the number is 1-855-889-2348. And if you're looking for help. But I think this video, hopefully maybe it tells someone and helps them out and gets them to make the phone call if they need it, you know. And that's basically it. How long have we been talking, everybody? I see Vicks Vapor Rub. Yes, those definitely help with smells, go into smells. Smells will haunt you just as easy as the sound of screaming, the noise of broken bones squishing and crunching, or the sights of seeing horrific stuff. Now, don't get me wrong. I think those of us that are in the profession of firefighting, we enjoy it. We love our job, at least for I would say the majority of people. And we probably wouldn't want to do any other job. But with that comes the burden of seeing, smelling, hearing things that we may never get to go away. So, do you guys have any questions out there? Appreciate you guys showing up. There are quite a few watching. We got 10 less thumbs up than we do watchers. Yeah, they're talking about bodies and hot days. There's lots of good stories of that. This is an interesting topic. Sorry I missed most of it. I just got here. Hey, Jinx. Yeah, definitely go back and check it out. It's hopefully it helps somebody. Jinx says, get on it, people. Thumbs up that thing. All right. Do I see any questions? So I think it's tough. I think there's no damn reason that we should be letting our fellow firefighters get to the point where they can no longer take whatever's in their heads and their thoughts and basically decide that they want to end it all. It's unfortunate. Thank you, guys. I think that's going to be it on this. This is definitely a tough topic. Could some suicides be related to home issues versus occupational? Great question, prepping to endure. I think a lot of it multiplies on each other. You know, you hear us say, oh yeah, we're gonna leave work at the door. You know, and you can and you can't. There's just it's not that simple. It's not, you can't just turn one switch off and turn the other one on. You can try really, really hard. You can be really good at it, but I don't think there's really a way. You know, you have home life. So here's how here's how I think things stack on top of each other, so it gets to the point where people are doing things that are basically deciding, okay, I'm gonna end it. All right, so you go to a call, and we talked about the cup and all these little calls that you go on and all these things that are caught in your brains and eyes and ears, and your cup gets close to full. It's not full, but it's getting close to full. Then you decide, you know what, I need to figure out a way to get rid of this stuff. I'm gonna try going to the bar, and I'm gonna drink my sorrows away. I'm gonna make this. I'm gonna erase my issues with alcohol or different types of drugs, right? And then all of a sudden you're you know, you gotta, maybe your wife's mad at you because you were out late, you know, and you did something that you normally wouldn't do. She's yelling at you because you weren't home to whatever, and now you have a little bit of that. Now you got some home problems. Well, now the home problems just magnified the issue by 2, because now you have a work problem and now you have a home life problem. So now you really don't have anywhere that you can, you know, like find a spot where you can just like decompress, you know. I remember coming home and, you know, I'd be on a fire or something for a while, you know, like a wildland fire, whatever the case is, you know, for like 21 days. And I'd get home and like the kids would jump on you and your wife would be all, hey, you know, like all this stuff would happen, you know, and you're like, holy shit. You're like, I just need like 30 minutes. Like, let me just figure out a way to turn the other switch on, you know, go from firefighting to being a parent and a husband again. You know, you can't, so it's kind of difficult. It's not just an instant, you know, switch turns off kind of deal. So it's everybody needs like their little time to get in situated, right? But I think all those things compound each other. You know, we'll go back to the guy drinking at the bar, trying to erase the pictures, and say he gets a DUI, right? So now he's got legal issues. He's gonna have his wife pissed at him because he was out drinking. And then she's gonna be, oh, you could have crashed into somebody or whatever the case is. And by God, that's perfectly valid, and she should yell at him for that shit. And compound, all this stuff just kind of compounds. Or maybe you're already having spousal issues, or maybe you're having financial issues. You know, all the normal things that everybody can have at home, plus the pictures and the hearing and the seeing and the smelling stuff. So that cup instantly gets full. And I think you know, they say screw it, and they do what they shouldn't do. I don't know, what do you guys think? We have that throughout the construction industry as well, coping in a bottle. Yeah, it's tough because the people, spouses, you know, those are the people that we should be thankful for. But at the end of the day, we're basically closing walls off, because that's a way that we cope. Whether you're just being quiet and you want to go to a room and, you know, kind of just like get away from everything, you know, you're basically putting up a wall to your spouse, you know, and that's not going to help anything. But you need to also talk to somebody that's going to help you, you know. And if you don't have the ability to talk to your crew or your you know, your supervisor, right, you need to find an outlet. You need to find an outlet of some sort. Find some of find some of the sites that you can go to. Be anonymous. Be whoever you need to be, but get it out there and let them help you cope and get through whatever the problem that is there. Is it going to go away? Are you ever going to get rid of the pictures that are in your head? No, I don't believe so. I believe that you will always have those with you, but they will be more suppressed. They won't be at the top. They won't be at the top of the thought process anymore. You know, and it's kind of nice because I have to go back and think of the call now. Well, the calls that used to haunt me. It's not right there where I'm already seeing the picture of the faces or the parts. So it definitely sinks down and suppresses farther down, and is much harder to come out and just kind of shine its nasty head again. But they will always be there. That's all I can say. But critical stress debriefings can help if you do it the proper way. If you say something, and if you're afraid to say something, maybe go to the guy's office or talk to him later in the day when not everybody's around. Just kind of get an idea. Say, man, how do you, you know, you could be a new guy and be like, how do you get through this stuff, you know, without it ruining you? And they may be able to give you some help. They may be able to give you some really good knowledge that can help you to have a 30-year career, you know. And it's all going to depend on the call volume that you went on, and how what would be the word? How much how callous you are. Not in a negative manner, but what's your, like, how much stuff can you see, taste, touch, all that without getting messed up? Like, that's going to get thicker. Your skin's going to get thicker when it comes to calls, and you're going to be like the call that you went on when you're first firefighter. Went 10 years from then, you're going to be like, oh, that's nothing, you know, I see that every day. Well, for the guy that's on his first week, he's never seen that before. That could be something important, or, you know, something that he needs to get through. And as fellow firefighters, senior firefighters, engineer captains, and battalion chiefs and fire chiefs, those are the things that you need to be able to tell your guys and gals and help them get through something. And if you see major problems, major issues, hey, Blue, if you see major problems, major issues, don't think that you're prying into their life, because you are allowed to. And what I mean by that is you're their brother, you're their sister. You are not a coworker, you're a family member. And you have the right to ask those questions and help, because those of us that sit and don't say anything, and then find out that our brother or sister passed away a few days later, you're going to be haunted going, if I only would have done more. What if I would have called this number? What if I would have gave him some information or her some information, and would that person still be here? Would I have been able to help? But if you're going to pretend that you're prying, or you don't want to spend the energy, the time, then I'm not saying it's going to be your fault, but you're going to have to live with some of that as well. Now remember, there's times when people notice something and they talk to the person and they say, man, if you need anything, give me a call. Here's some numbers that you may call, you may find. There's going to be people that are going to commit suicide because they're going to commit suicide because they already have it in their head. They could be going to counselors. They could be going to this and trying to get better. And at the end of the day, or months later, all those calls are still in their head. And there may be some people that will not be able to be fixed. And we talked about it here, right here. Question 1 was suicide. Can it be prevented? And the answer they put was if risk factors are recognized. That's a real question. But is it? Is it a real answer if risk factors are recognized? I think if we recognize risk factors, we can help, but we cannot prevent all from happening. I think we can help make these numbers here go down, but they'll never go away. They won't ever go to 0, I don't think. It's unfortunate, but I don't think they'll ever go to 0. It's just so sad. There's 132 people last year that couldn't take it anymore. And I don't mean that in a mean way. I mean that as in there was so much buildup of shit, calls, and maybe family life, and just adding onto each other that they thought that their best way to get rid of all that was to end their life. So hopefully you guys appreciate you showing up. I'm going to end this thing. And the links are down below if here's something you need, or the information that we talked about with the statistics and all that will be in there as well. But you guys take care, and I appreciate it. I'm going to go out here real quick and say hi to all the people. So we got VBorg001, Prepping to Endure. You're welcome. LMB Pro, thank you. Fox, or Fuzzfork 8, Jinx Summer, Stan Alch, Sandy's Passion, Frank L, Bad Billy 429, Brian Marks, Insight Freedom, HMR Weapons Machinist, Blue 823. Let's see, I'm going the opposite way, so I'll see if anybody I missed. I think that was, Robin Jones, Scab Ugly Channel, and Keith Gregory. What in the hell?